Welcome back, folks. Today we'll take a look at the Caernarvon Action X. So this is going to be a premium tier 8 British heavy tank. It is essentially the original Action X Caernarvon receiving the buff from 9.19, but does not get a new turret, the Centurion turret. It does get the Action X Centurion's buff to the turret and some gun shields or space armor, as well as the gun sleeve. And it also gets the DPM buff. Not as much as with the normal Caernarvon with the 32 pounder, but yeah, this DPM is pretty crazy. So it has been in the game files for about 3 months now, and that's a long time. So I'm thinking this vehicle got shelved like the Kirovets-1, like the T-103 tank destroyer. So who knows, but it is a pretty interesting vehicle because it's a premium. It has one of the most DPM, one of the highest DPM of tier 8, but that's not enough nowadays, surprisingly, I guess. So let's take a look at the vehicle model. It is basically the original Caernarvon with the Action X turret, with the gun shield or space armor, whatever you want to call it, and the gun sleeve. So it's not a bad looking vehicle, but I always called the Caernarvon basically Faturians because they are Faturians. It is based off of the same design, based off of the FV200 universal tank, but yeah, it's similar to the Caernarvon, similar to the Conqueror, similar to the Centurion, so similar to the FV207 artilleries. Alright, but it's not a bad looking tank. The only weakness is the hull. Similar to the Caernarvon, similar to the Centurion, the hull armor is not that great, but the turret is from a tier 10 medium tank, so if hull down, it is pretty decent. Now compared to the normal Caernarvon, this cupola is a little bit bigger because of the lip. So the lip right here, or I'll show you, but the lip right underneath the periscope, it's a little bit bigger, but compared to the normal Caernarvon, that's not that much. So we'll take a look at the collision model, but visually it's not a bad looking tank. So if you play this vehicle well, it's basically a large medium, but you have a lot more DPM and a little bit more health to compensate. So here are the main stats. So basically the vehicle model has the same hull armor as the normal Caernarvon. So hull armor is alright, but you do have a lower plate, and that's pretty huge. This vehicle has less armor on the sides than the normal Caernarvon. This has 2 inches or about 51mm, whereas the normal Caernarvon has about 3 inches or 76.2. So that's the average or the standard for British or American tanks, 3 inches. But side scraping with this vehicle, not that great. So you do have to go a very steep angle for the sides. Yeah, that's rough. So you kind of do this, you'll get pinned in the middle, but you do have the support of the sponsons. So this is buffed like with the Caernarvon, so that's good. Hull down, this vehicle is a beast because shooting at the top of the turret, it's auto bounce, and the base of the turret, it's pretty strong. And you do have gun shields or space armor protecting the cheeks. So it's a pretty strong turret, but the lip, that's the main weak spot. So shoot the lip, it's only 127. And if you face a large caliber gun, they might be able to overmatch the hull. So if you're facing something like a T-30 face hugging you, they'll jam a shot into the driver hatch and that will pin, but they mostly shoot at this thing, so that's the weak spot. But it's a Faturian, so it is a fat medium tank. It looks like a fat medium tank, and that's what the armor is basically about. But let's take a look at the other stats. So 226mm of pen, it's a 20 pounder gun, so it's not a bad gun. It's a medium tank's gun, but this thing cranks out a lot of DPM, about 2,500. So originally I thought, this is nuts. So all you have to do is spam Gold Shell. Gold Shell is only 258 APCR. So that might be a problem because yeah, tier 8 matchmaking is not the greatest or the most favorable. So you are likely going to see tier 10s. You're likely going to see vehicles like 268 version number 4, 705s, And yeah, 258 is not that great. So surprisingly, is that the draw factor between this vehicle and vehicles like the T-34 or the Luva? Because those vehicles have about 300mm of pin with gold shell, and they could stand toe-to-toe if they're hauled down against tier 10s. Whereas you don't have that much penetration power. You do have a lot of DPM, but I would recommend if you're fighting a high tier 10s or tier 9s with this gun is to detract them, because you have the rate of fire, detract them, and make them easy targets for your allies to flank or artillery. But yeah, the penetration of the gold shell might be a problem, but the DPM is crazy high. So only 50 rounds. That also might be a problem, but you'll see. 50 rounds is still above like 40 mostly, but I think the Centurion carries a little bit more rounds. Let's see, Centurions, but only 50? Wow, it carries 15 rounds less than the Centurion. It's fatter than the Centurion, yet it carries less ammo, surprisingly. 20-pounder gun, but alright, so low ammo count might be a problem. Shell velocity is pretty high for AP shell. It's a 20-pounder. Accuracy is great. Aim time is relatively fast. Dispersion is pretty decent. Gun depression, obviously British tanks. Gun elevation. Traverse for the turret, not bad. Above average. 37, so that's like a medium. Hull traverse, close to being a heavy, but still above average. Now what is interesting is it has horsepower per ton ratio, so it has a pretty powerful engine, but top speed is not that great, so this goes towards being like revving up all the time with that speed, but you're constantly moving at 36.3. It's not bad, considering if you already played the Centurions originally, or if you played the Caernarvon originally, their top speed is 40 back then, so it's not bad. Terrain resistance, slightly above average, so that's good. Has a little bit less health than the average, but do have a pretty sturdy ammo rack, and pretty healthy engine. So I already took a look, but the rest of the stats, pretty average. So alright, but this thing has below average view range for a British tank, for a American tank. So for a English-esque of a tank, yeah, they have 400 meters of view range on the Caernarvon, on the T-32s. So, and that's below average, but it's above average compared to the Russians, who has like 350. So those are garbage, but it's workable. Radio range, standard. Slightly below average camo, but it's a heavy, so whatever. And what's also interesting is this, compared to the 32-pounder on the actual Caernarvon, has increased shell price compared to the 32. So we'll take a look, but on the Caernarvon, the 32-pounder cost 20 credit less, or 20 silver less. And the Caernarvon has more alpha with the 32. Less penetration, but alright, but it is a little bit more accurate on the Action X version. Same aim time, not as good dispersion, surprisingly, even though it's a smaller caliber gun. Same gun depression, a little bit better elevation. It has more engine power, so that's good. Less health, less side armor. So where's the side armor value? There it is. So compared to the 3 inches, or 76.2, it has only 2 inches. But the rest of the armor on the hull is the same. For the turret front is the same. Better side of the turret. So if you get shot at the sides, you might bounce a few light tanks rounds, but it has less view range by 20. So that may be a problem, but not that much. So yeah, it's not a bad tank when you think about it. The only weak spot is the hull. So it's like a medium. And slightly larger cupola, but I wouldn't put this as a big problem because it's not like the AMX M4 model 1949. That's a big cupola. So if you take a look at the AMX M4, and it's only like 60 millimeters or 65, but Jesus, that cupola is huge. Oh, 1949, Sam, not 1945. There are so many AMX M4s. So this one, Jesus. But yeah, that cupola is huge. That cupola is weak. High explosive this, yo pen. That's a tumor.
It's not a tumor. It's not a tumor at all.
But compared to the Caernarvon Action X, that's relatively small. Yeah, that's a lip. So that's fine with me. But if you compare this to the actual Caernarvon, it's a little bit bigger. So here is the normal Caernarvon with the buff turret. Yeah, that's a pretty small target. So that's the cupola lip, but it's pretty hard to shoot that. So I think it's pretty decent for this weak spot. It is a weak spot still, but it's not like in your face. Tumors in your face. So yeah, this vehicle, is it really worth it? Well, I think it is. In the hands of a good player, yeah. It's a pretty perfect tank, because considering the fact that you have a lot of DPM, holy crap, the average is about 1,900. This thing has about 2,500 DPM. It's not as crazy as the actual Caernarvon, but yeah, the actual Caernarvon has 2,700 or something. Yeah, 2,500, 2,700 for the normal Caernarvon. The only problem with the actual Caernarvon in this current scenario with the meta is, might be the gold shell doesn't have that much penetration. Only 252 for the APCR, I think. But I mean, is that really a big problem? Jesus, 252 millimeters of pen for gold is not enough? Christ. Well, I thought the Caernarvon would be a beast. I thought it would be pretty good. Yeah, I've seen a lot of these against the Object 252Us and the Defenders. So basically, if you're hauled down, you're basically shooting all the weak spots with a 32 pounder. And you reload really fast. This DPM is crazy, but I mean, against tier 10s, might be not as effective. Might. So it's surprising. It's really surprising how crazy DPM does not mean the tank is that good anymore. I thought, like, if you're putting this vehicle into the game 3 years ago or 2 years ago, back then I would think, holy shit, you have 2,700 DPM for a tier 8? You are nuts! With this amount of armor for the turret and that much engine power for a heavy, even though the hull armor is crap, you basically play this as a heavy medium. It will work pretty well, but here is the current stats for the Caernarvon, ranked with the win percent ratio. It's average, 49.84%. What? You have a lot of DPM. So here is 9.17's Caernarvon back then. So with the Action X turret, right? Yep. But it has the view range back then, but look at the DPM. 1,845. They buffed it by 900. So almost, basically 50%. Almost 50% buff to the DPM. And yet, still a 50% win ratio. What? Across all the servers. So that's surprising. That's really surprising. Holy crap. You have that much DPM. Why is it not working? So is it because the matchmaking? Is it because you cannot penetrate with the gold shell? Might be. So if you're going to get this vehicle, I do think you should try to play as a little bit more supporty of a heavy, because mostly the pen. But if you're top tier, holy crap, this thing is great. But if you're bottom tier, you still have decent enough turret armor and view range to support, and you have a rapid fire gun. So basically shoot at the tracks, detrack people, make them easy targets for your allies. You don't have to do damage, just detrack. A lot of the players thought, oh, I don't have enough penetration, I'll just give up and quit. Shoot the tracks, so immobilize and allows your teammates to go for the kill. But I still think this is a great vehicle, because the British heavy tank line doesn't really have a good heavy tank. You have the FV201, the prototype to the universal tank thingy-majig. I thought it was available for sale. It's not. Oh shoot. But that thing has no armor. That is the original Faturian, but yeah, it's not that great of a crew trainer in my honest opinion. So where is the original FV201. There it is. So here is the original Faturian at tier 7. I thought, the armor, meh. The turret armor doesn't have turret armor. It has a 17 pounder, I think. But yeah, it's not great. I mean, you might as well play the Tiger or something, or the TOG for that matter. But yeah, thinking back on it, this might be a decent trainer, but if you want to survive in the current meta, I think the new Action X Caernarvon would be a lot better choice, even though this is cheaper. So I still think this is a good vehicle, and it might be the original past self of the meta talking, the past experience, but nowadays you have insane values. You have the Chrysler K, you have the Object 252Us. I still think this is a great vehicle. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. But there you go, folks, the Action X Caernarvon. So pretty decent based on the influx of Conquerors and Super Conquerors. Yeah, those things are crazy. So if you want a good crew trainer for beast like this thing or this thing, yeah, go for it. But the only downside is side scraping is not that great, only 50 millimeters, so don't side scrape. So always haul down, and the gold shell might be a problem, but 252. So play as a support if you cannot pin. Always go for D-tracks, make them easier targets. If you're a bottom tier, hang around large like allies, large targets as meat shield like Mouses or Type 5s, but you do have engine power. This thing has about 15, so you do have some mobility to go flanking, quote unquote. But there you go, folks. The Action X Caernarvon, I think it's a decent buy in the current meta based on the price, but if they make this thing for gold, yeah, it's definitely worth it. So thank you guys for watching this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
だけど今日も徐々に遠くな